I didn't learn to swim until I was 14 years old. Throughout my childhood, I had a recurring nightmare of drowning. I saw the movie Jaws when I was way too young, and it left me with a lifelong fear of sharks. And those two factors explain why I seldom venture into the sea. And it also explains why loneliness is so terrifying. I can avoid water and the creatures that live in it, but loneliness can strike at any time. It's waiting in your house. It can lurk among crowds, and you can't outrun it. And that's why loneliness is my greatest single fear. It's easy to dismiss this as mere pre Christmas melancholy or a bit of a low mood, but the reality is far more brutal. We're looking at a killer that sits on par with smoking or obesity. Research suggests it ramps up your mortality risk by 27%. It's linked to heart disease, stroke, and biological markers for Alzheimer's. Yet it's not a virus or a toxin. It's not something you can catch from human contact. In fact, it's born from the precise opposite: a lack of human touch, a starvation of connection. And loneliness is quite simply an epidemic. We're living in a strange time. We've never been more connected in the technological sense. We're globally wired, plugged into a 24-hour cycle of digital noise. Yet the warmth of actual human contact is receding. We're automating the humanity out of our lives. We shop online, we work remotely, and we substitute real conversation for the sanitized distance of a text message. Our social fabric is fraying. But if you look closely at the threads that are snapping first, you'll often find that they belong to men. Loneliness doesn't discriminate, it comes for everyone. But for men, there is a specific cultural trapdoor. We're raised on a diet of stoicism and invulnerability. To admit you're lonely feels like an admission of failure, feels like you're saying you're not man enough to handle your own business. So we battle on with a sort of bravado, masking the silence with noise or quite often with alcohol. We also tend to put all of our emotional eggs in one basket. Men rely heavily on their partners for social support. We often don't have the sprawling safety nets of friends that women tend to cultivate. And if that relationship breaks down or if bereavement strikes, the isolation can be absolute. I want to talk about a specific group of men who are right at the sharp end of this: the lads in demolition and construction. If you designed a laboratory experiment to create loneliness, it would look a lot like a modern demolition site. These are industries defined by transience. You go where the work is. That often means migrating away from home, leaving your mates and your family behind. You're effectively pulling up your roots every few months. And then there's the work itself. You might be surrounded by people, but are you connecting? Probably not. Teams shift and change constantly. You don't get the time to build that deep trust of true friendship. Consider the machine operator. He's sitting in a cab doing highly skilled work, but he basically spends his entire life in a sound suppressed box. Often the only sound they can hear are their own thoughts. And if those thoughts are dark, if they're worried about money or a divorce, that cab becomes an echo chamber for rumination. It's a physical manifestation of isolation. We all had a taste of this, didn't we? The COVID-19 pandemic was a global lesson in what happens when you turn off the tap of human interaction. We felt the routines vanish. We felt the worries build up because there was no one to distract us. But there was a fascinating nuance there as well. Some men coped surprisingly well. Why? Because they felt they had a purpose. If they were isolating to protect the family or the NHS, that solitude had a mission attached to it. It bestowed a sense of social worth. It proved that men can handle solitude, provided they feel they're serving a purpose. The relief we felt when things opened up again wasn't just about going to the pub, it was about the restoration of our capacity to connect through activity. So, how do we fix this? We know from everything we've said about mental health, we can't just tell men to talk more. That ignores the fundamental way that men operate. Sitting in a circle and staring at each other, discussing our feelings, might work for some, but for many, it's excruciating. We don't do face to face. Men connect shoulder to shoulder. We connect by doing things together. If we want to stop this silent epidemic, particularly in industries like demolition and construction, we need a structural shift. We need to treat social connection with the same seriousness as we treat physical health and safety. As a nation, we need to invest in our third spaces, places that aren't at home and not work, and ideally they're not the pub either. We're talking about the clubs, the community centres, the sports ground. These are the places where the safety nets are woven. And when we lose them, we lose the ability to catch people before they fall. And we also need to change the narrative. We need to dismantle the stigma that says man has to be a solitary island to be strong. Real strength isn't about suffering in silence. We have to move beyond treating loneliness as an individual failing. It's not your fault if you're lonely. It's a design flaw in the way we live and work. For the construction worker, for the retiree, for the man sitting in his house wondering why the phone never rings, we need to rebuild the foundations. We need to create spaces where men can find purpose, earn their self-worth, and engage in the splendidly pointless pastime of just hanging out. We just have to be brave enough to admit that we need each other.